Stunning wintry day. Walking the dog. Walking, thinking, pondering. It's a bright sun behind me. Pretty nice light out there. Here's something I'm thinking about as I'm walking. A lot of jurisdictions, it's anti-bullying week. And I've been reading and researching, connecting with some folks around academic bullying, higher education. It's a real problem. And I certainly wonder how a problem like that just continues to grow worse. I was quoting quite regularly recently, Statistics Canada did a survey of faculty and researchers in higher education in Canada. Tens of thousands of them released a report last year. They did the survey in 2019, asking faculty and researchers about their experiences of harassment and discrimination in the previous 12 months. And then that report was released last year, 2021. Very little been said about it by institutions, by the sector, by government. But it revealed, I don't want to call it a dark underbelly, because anyone that's worked in the sector sees it plain as day. It's actually part of the infrastructure and just the way things are done in higher education. It is almost, and sometimes seems that bullying is expected. Just being rude with other academics, and just been navigating some of that even with comments online or looking at articles. And some academics, got to tell you, are just assholes. And it certainly becomes a lot about them and they're seeking tenure or holding tenure or their research dollars. And it's unfortunate. There's also lots that are doing good work, important research. But when 1 in 3 women report experiences of harassment and discrimination, faculty and researchers, 1 in 5 men, over 50% of women with a disability that faculty and researchers, upwards close to 50% for Indigenous women, 40% of those that self-identify as Indigenous in the sector that are faculty and researchers experience harassment and discrimination. And bullying is most likely a part of that. But those numbers, as abysmal as they are terrible, and it's a brutal problem, is the fact that in those situations, there's more than one person involved. So if 1 in 3 women have experienced harassment and discrimination as faculty and researchers in higher education, I can guarantee you there's another 1 in 3 that were bystanders for that, either male, female, or other identities. And then for any of those that are raised, not necessarily formally, but even just to get resolved, that adds in more people. And so that means it doesn't take too long to start to get to 3 for 3 that are aware that harassment and discrimination is occurring. And clearly, and this is backed by the evidence as well, the policies that say, well, this isn't tolerated, and the various legislation that gets put in place isn't working, because it's still a serious problem in the sector. So if there's that many people that say they've experienced it in the last 12 months, not even over their career, then we can double that for the amount of people that observed it. And then that therefore means that those that experience it, those that observe it, and those that perpetrate it, again, doesn't take us long to get to 3 for 3. And if not much is done about that, it essentially condones it and says that it's okay, because nothing happens to the perpetrators, or maybe they go to some training, and that's the limited response that comes of it. Bullying, harassment, and discrimination in the higher sector, the numbers out of that survey say it's almost twice the national average. The experiences of men in higher education are higher than women across the country. There's a real serious problem. And so I have a bit of a prediction, and I might eat mud on this prediction, but I think there's a giant pivot, so they say in bureaucracy and large organizations, a giant pivot coming for higher education. It's going to get held to account. It has in other situations around funding research dollars. I smell class action lawsuits or otherwise coming forward, because clearly the training, the online modules that are often mandatory, the policies that say this isn't tolerated, they don't seem to be working very well. What do you think about this? I'm curious. That's what I'm thinking about. So I'm walking. You seen some issues? Bullying, harassment, discrimination in higher education? Sure you have. Seen far more than I thought was possible in any one sector. Lots of good stuff, but boy, it's got an issue right now. What do you think? Leave me a comment. Interested to hear more.